I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, August the 15th, brought to you in part by the Western Video Market sale at Old Cheyenne. Here happened on Monday and going to be happening again today on Tuesday, starting sharply at 8 o'clock Central. Man, they had a whiz-bang yearling sale and a lot of weaned calves on Monday. Going to give you some highlights of that sale in just a second, but do not forget to tune in WVMcattle.com, DVAuction.com. You can find it on your satellite TV. But 8 o'clock Central starting time here, Western Video Market got a lot of fancy calves on there. And then towards the end of the sale, going to have some replacement stock, and they'll be top quality too. Also, Beaver County Stockyards, about 2,000 head for the regular cattle auction here today on Tuesday. Going to have 1,200 yearlings there. For sure, 13 load lots of 8 and 9 weight steers. And a couple of them may weigh up there towards $1,000. So if you guys are interested in some big feeders like that, sure got a load and a half of 7 weight heifers there coming through. Be 500 calves. Very few of them will be weaned, mostly fresh calves right off the cow, and some of them with some size to them, 6 and 7 weight calves right off the cow, top quality, and 1 round of shots on them. From higher to lower on Friday night, and I don't see how you get big things done in the evening and especially on Friday night, but as I just watched on Monday evening late, I guess you can get indictments about 9 o'clock in the evening if you're in Fulton County, Georgia. It's amazing how they can just do things whenever they need to do them right during prime time when everybody's watching there. But if that's not ridiculous. But I don't know if it was really Friday night, but last Friday it was after the 2 p.m. deadline. Well, they hadn't traded any cattle to speak of at all in the Southern Plains, and not a whole lot in the Northern Plains. But they waited. It's just like the Packers playbook that we have been talking about for the last couple of weeks here. They've changing things to trade late on Friday. Sure don't want any price discovery or transparency or anything like that. We just hold everything to the vest. So they traded all the cattle last week, but nobody really knew what happened until midday on Monday. By the time they get them all rounded up, there was no reports of how many cattle had sold in the Southern Plains. We didn't really know what had happened. We had heard that maybe a few cattle had traded at 180, but indeed your cattle traded at 180 in the Southern Plains, and we traded more than we did the previous week. How did we get to the 180? That was discovered on the Fed Cattle Exchange. We had major packers bidding 180 on cattle on the Fed Cattle Exchange on Friday. They were holding the cattle on a reserve higher than that, so they did not get them bought. But it did show that they would give the 180, and then people started puking the cattle at 180 on Friday afternoon after the Fed Cattle Exchange. I'm glad we have the Fed Cattle Exchange, but if people don't end up selling them on there and your packers don't end up bidding high enough to buy them, I'm not sure how long we can keep doing that, but it is a nice tool to have to get a little bit of price discovery and maybe just a smidgen of competition out of these packers here. For you guys that are you're formulaed up, you basically are a contract grower for your big 4 packers. You might want to pay attention here. Last week we had poultry plants closed by Tyson in southern Missouri there, and the southern Missouri and northern Arkansas poultry breeders there, or growers I guess is what they are, that had contracts with the Tyson plant there, and they had all their money invested in there. They just went in there and pulled the plug on that plant, told all the growers that they had that had just signed in with them for the last within the last 2 years that their contract was terminated. They're sitting there with birds. They don't know what they're going to do with them. They don't know where they're at. So that's the kind of the way that things can be pulled out from under you whenever you put all your eggs in one basket like that. But Sure hate to see that for those growers of the chickens. And we lost the chicken industry way back in the 30s and the 40s, or 1930s and 40s, I guess I should specify. We lost the hog feeding operation on a commercial level. We lost that in the 1990s, and we are currently losing commercial cattle feeding in the southern plains from the southwest Kansas on down into the Texas Panhandle. We've already lost Colorado, northern Kansas, and then they'll move up into Nebraska, and then finally Iowa will be the last ones that have any price discovery, have any competition in your fed cattle arena on feeding cattle. I told you about the Western Video Market up in Cheyenne at Little America on Monday, and boy, was it a humdinger. They're just getting huge prices there. I got to tell you about a couple of lots there that sold. Sewell Ranching sold 2,100 spayed heifers in one whack, in one lot. 2,100 spayed heifers from Walcott, Wyoming. 835-pound heifers, all spayed, 100% black and black white face, 100% purchased in Wyoming. So needless to say, they didn't have any bells and whistles on them or anything like that. Just purchased top quality heifers, all spayed for you, all black and black baldy for September delivery there. 2,100 of them with a base weight of 835, bring 247 for September delivery. My goodness, guys. How about Flying Diamond? The Flying Diamond Ranch there sold 120 head of ranch raised steers, all home raised. 815 pounders in Castle Rock, Colorado, which you can throw a rock to Denver there, guys. It's just right there. But right there in the elevation, cattle were mostly red with a few other colored cattle on them, but for the most part they were red. Nothing wrong with that, just showing you what can happen there. And these cattle did have all the programs on them: NHTC, Verified Natural, Gap 4, Veg Fed, Beef Care, every single thing that you can do. Diamonds in their assholes. I mean, the best you can buy anywhere, and represented by my good friend Glenn Benjamin, who doesn't live too far from there, just a little bit east of there at Castle Rock, Colorado. But 120 head of those, and they had some bigger ones that sold well also, but I thought these were the most impressive. 120 of those program steers weigh 815 to deliver in September at 273. My goodness. They sold 1,000 Peaks Ranch sold 4,000 head of lambs weighing just short of 100 pounds out of Oakley, Utah for October delivery at 220. I thought that was impressive there. They also sold some calves, some weaned calves, very impressively, but I'm going to give you the calf rundown after today's sale to be fair, but they have already sold some lots of steer calves, weaned steer calves weighing as much as 5 1/4 at $3.50 a pound, residing in Nevada. But I thought the Western Video Market's having a humdinger out there, and congratulations to them. Let's talk about your board to open the week on Monday. August live cattle futures down 62 cents at 179.75. October down 65 at 180.67. Your back months were all down too, from 47 cents to 70 cents. August feeder cattle down $1.52. You sure couldn't tell it by the Western Video Market sale or any of our other high volume sales, feeder sales in brick and mortar sale barns that the board was down. Nobody paying too much attention to it at all. But August feeder cattle down $1.52 at 246.22. September down 132 at 250.12. Back months all down 80 cents to down $1.10. December new crop corn up a ½ cent a bushel is all. And like I said, things have kind of calmed down on the corn of late. But at 4.87 3/4 a bushel, and kind of residing south of $5, which makes your cattle feeders feel kind of comfortable there. New crop November beans up 18.5 cents at 13.26. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September down 5 1/4 cents at 7.50 1/2. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region. That's all we can talk about on the market is what's traded negotiated, guys. Everything else is basically hidden to us. So we have to talk about the negotiated trade. It gets smaller and later every week. But that's all we can talk about because it's the only thing that's transparent enough for us to decipher. But in the 5 area, they sold 61,400, which is a lot more than we thought they would sell, compared to the previous week of 68,600. In the same week a year ago, 86,300. But your prices on fat steers and heifers last week in the 5 area feeding region ranged from 177 to 190. That'd be steady to a buck lower. There was only less than 600 head that sold lower than 179, so I'm not sure why they had to pull that all the way down to 177. And there was 2,800 cattle that sold at 190 in the northern plains. I told you about those cattle on the Fed Cattle Exchange on Friday. The Montana Fed Cattle program heifers at 191 1/4. They can bring more than that. Your weighted average on live steers last week was 185.88, down 82 cents. So we didn't even know we had lost ground in our fat cattle trade until midday on Monday because they hadn't reported enough sales in the southern plains. But indeed, we did have a lower market on a live basis. Of course, dress, they trade most all of those in the northern plains, and the market was better in the northern plains, a buck or two better live also, but they sold fewer cattle in the northern plains compared to the previous week and more cattle in the southern plains. That's why you lost ground on your 5 area weighted average on a live basis. But dress sales last week ranged from $2.92 to $3. That was steady to $2 higher, and your dressed weighted average on steers was $295.60, up 46 cents. But basically in the northern plains, your market was steady live at 188, steady dressed at 295 for the most part, and the southern plains also steady at 188, but lower live weighted averages because more cattle sold in the southern plains. Now nationwide negotiated, we sold 74,100. 21% of those are for the 15 to 30 day delivery. There was 42,400 head of negotiated grid sales with no negotiation, 19,600 head of forward contracts, and 260,000 head of formula sales based off that minuscule weighted average within the different regions, guys. But you put them all together, the 4 of the 5 regions that we get to see information from. Iowa sold 20,600 last week. Nebraska sold 23,700. Kansas sold 10,800 last week. And Texas sold 6,300 last week. And like I said, the southern plains sales were all at 180. Box beef cutout values come out higher out of the gates Monday. Choice cuts up 289 at 305.50. Selects up 322 at 280.45. Your slaughter starting out disappointing again. I guess the Packers are just going to completely cut back on the slaughter. Where they're going to come up with the product to fulfill their obligations and their sales that they've already made out front. I guess they'll have to do it all through captive supplies, and they won't have anything for the spot market, or they'll have to import some beef to fill those needs or what. But they are really pulling back on the kill here, as they're said to be in the red or near the red, but only 119,000 on Monday to start off. It's usually 125. But starting off the week, they usually start out good and then taper off. They're starting off on the light side, and I assume we'll taper off there too. Talk about what else is going on. The Night Latch Group. Hang on to your investment. Let Andy Cunningham in Western Oklahoma show you how to use gross margin policies to hedge your corn and your cattle. For more information, go to nightlatch.net. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction based on the 800-pound steer on a cash auction steer up through the middle 12 states. 245.75 Late on Monday, that was up 16 cents. So still selling well, not paying any attention to the lower futures or on that lower cash live trade that we saw that we didn't really understand was going to be lower until midday on Monday. But in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma National Stockyards, 8,000 head. Feeders were mostly steady. Calves steady to $2 higher. An impressive sale in Oklahoma City was National Livestock sold 77 steers, weighed 755 at $250-350. Joplin Regional Stockyards sold 5,800 head. They were only estimating 5,000 head. Had a big rain there Sunday night. But the guys were still able to get them in because they knew they were going to be bringing a big price, and they wanted to get that put in the bank. But feeder steers steady to $3 higher in Joplin. Heifers steady to $2 higher. Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri was your national beef wire stick-out sale of the day. 362 head of 4-weight steers, average 451, bring 270.65. 690 head of 5-weight steers, average 551 at 264.93. 825 head of 6-weight steers in Joplin, average 656 at 263.20. 604 head of 7 weights, average 761 at 250.99. 492 head of 8 weights, averaged 843 at 239.47 on that weighted average. Heifers, 440 head of 4-weight heifers, average 450 with a weighted average price of 250-259. 889 head of 5-weight heifer calves, average 548 at 250.77. 572 head of 6-weight heifers, average 651 at 245.12. And 460 head of 7-weight heifers had a weighted average weight of 730, weighted average price of 230.92. If you guys are interested in some yearlings and some program yearlings on Tuesday afternoon here, if you guys, especially you guys that are in the Eastern Corn Belt, Mid-Atlantic Cattle Sales has got 43 load lots of cattle to sell out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Many program cattle on there. Will be 1 o'clock Eastern on dvauction.com. Couple individual quotes. How about Cleburne County Livestock Auction in Heber Springs, Arkansas? That's one of our sales that normally sells them one at a time like they do down there, but they can also sell load lots too. They had a load lot of Charolais steers in Heber Springs, Arkansas, guys. 73 of them, weighed 614 pounds, bring 261.50. Nothing to sneeze at there, and congratulations to them. They are a DV auction broadcaster. You can watch them on DV every Monday. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri. Had a lighter run, but very impressive quotes all the way around, including this one. 76 head of 676-pound steers, weighing nearly 7, guys, bring 301. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.